What you're about to hear is the story of a campaign rally like so many others, full of hope, community spirit, and the promise of change. But this rally didn't end the way anyone expected. It became a moment frozen in time, caught live on camera, that shook a town and left a nation searching for answers. Yesenia Lara Gutierrez was standing before her supporters, speaking to a crowd that believed in her vision. She was a mother, a leader, someone ready to take on the challenges her community faced. The air was filled with anticipation, voices lifted in encouragement, cameras capturing smiles and dreams for a better tomorrow. Then everything shifted. What started as a celebration turned into confusion. Noise turned into panic. And suddenly, a horrifying act unfolded before hundreds of eyes, an event so abrupt and devastating, it's hard to believe it actually happened. How does something like this occur in the middle of the day, under the watchful eyes of a crowd? How could violence erupt so suddenly in a place where people had gathered to listen, to hope, to support? These questions don't just linger, they demand answers. Yesenia Lara Gutierrez was a dedicated public servant and a familiar face in the small town of Texistepec, Veracruz. Known for her commitment to her community, she was a mother and an emerging political leader with a clear vision: to bring positive change to a region grappling with economic challenges and insecurity. Running as a mayoral candidate under Morena, Mexico's ruling party, Yesenia represented hope for many who longed for better governance and safety in their daily lives. Veracruz, however, is known as one of the most dangerous states in Mexico for politicians. It has become a violent hotspot where organized crime and political ambitions collide, making local elections not just a contest of ideas, but often a fight for survival. Candidates regularly face threats and attacks, and Veracruz has seen a surge in politically motivated violence over recent years. On May 11, 2025, during a campaign rally in Texistepec, this grim reality came to light in the most shocking way. Yesenia Lara Gutierrez was leading a caravan of supporters through the streets when gunmen opened fire in broad daylight. The attack was captured live on a Facebook broadcast, exposing the brutal assassination to viewers in real time. The violence claimed Yesenia's life, along with that of her daughter and several others. This incident highlights a disturbing trend. Political violence in Mexico is on the rise, with candidates increasingly becoming targets. The stakes have never been higher, as these attacks threaten not only individuals but the very foundation of democracy in regions where fear has begun to silence voices before they can be heard. The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows over Texistepec's narrow streets, as the townspeople gathered in anticipation. This was more than just a small town in Veracruz. It was a community bound together by shared struggles and hopes for a brighter tomorrow. For years, Texistepec had felt the weight of uncertainty, the kind that seeps into everyday life when fear is never far away. Yet, on this evening, a spark of optimism seemed to ignite the air. Yesenia Lara Gutierrez's campaign caravan wove through the heart of the town like a river of determination. Supporters lined the streets, their voices lifted in chants and songs, waving flags that fluttered in the gentle breeze. The hum of conversation mixed with the occasional burst of laughter and the rhythm of footsteps on pavement. There was a palpable energy, an unmistakable sense that change was within reach. Cameras and phones were held aloft, capturing every moment for those near and far. The event was being streamed live, a window into Texistepec's hopes, ambitions, and the collective spirit of its people. For many watching, it was a moment of connection, a chance to witness democracy in motion, raw and unfiltered. The caravan moved steadily with Yesenia at its center, her voice carrying above the crowd as she spoke passionately about the future she envisioned: safer streets, opportunities for youth, and a government that truly listened. Her words echoed against the walls of the town, weaving into the fabric of the evening like a promise. But as the camera panned across the crowd, there was an unsettling stillness beneath the celebration. Some faces were etched with unease, eyes darting to shadows that seemed to linger a little too long. Social media chatter began to reflect this tension. "Stay safe, Texistepec," one message read. "We're watching and we won't forget," wrote another. A local witness later recalled, "It felt like the whole town was holding its breath. We wanted to believe in the hope, but deep down many of us knew there was something waiting, something we couldn't see." This was the calm before the storm, a fragile piece hanging by a thread, just moments away from unraveling. The afternoon sunlight was beginning to fade, casting a warm but fragile glow over the streets of Texistepec. The campaign caravan, alive with energy just moments before, was winding its way through the town, the voices of supporters blending with the hum of engines and chatter. Then, without warning, a sharp roar cut through the air, the unmistakable sound of motorcycles accelerating fast toward the crowd. Out of nowhere, a cluster of gunmen appeared, weaving skillfully through the throng on their motorcycles. Their faces hidden beneath helmets, they moved with cold precision. The live broadcast camera, steady moments earlier, suddenly captured the eruption of chaos, shouts turning to screams, the clatter of gunfire echoing violently against buildings, and the crowd scattering in every direction. The sharp cracks of dozens of shots filled the air, rapid, relentless, a terrifying barrage that shattered the evening calm. Panic erupted instantly. People ducked behind cars, pressed themselves against walls, some froze in shock, while others desperately fled, their terrified cries piercing the heavy air. Yesenia Lara Gutierrez, at the heart of the caravan, was caught in the crossfire. She fell, struck down alongside her daughter and others who had stood by her side. The live stream bore witness to the horror unfolding, the raw, unfiltered terror made all the more real by the camera's unwavering gaze. The aftermath was a swirl of confusion and anguish. Blood stained the cobblestone streets. The echoes of gunfire gave way to cries for help and frantic calls on cell phones. Emergency responders rushed in, their sirens wailing, weaving through the panicked masses to reach the wounded. Eyewitnesses described a scene torn between chaos and heroism. Some tried to shield the injured, others sought to calm the terrified crowd. Yet beneath the frantic movement, an unsettling question hung in the air. Why? Why was Yesenia targeted? Who would benefit from silencing her and those who stood with her? As ambulances carried the injured away, the once vibrant rally was reduced to a haunting tableau of loss and fear. The streets that had echoed with hope just minutes before now bore the heavy weight of violence, a stark reminder of the dangers lurking beneath the surface of political ambition. This was more than an attack. It was a message, one that sent shockwaves far beyond the borders of Texistepec, challenging the very idea of safety and democracy in regions gripped by unrest. Veracruz is a land of contrasts. Its lush landscapes and vibrant culture hide a long, troubling history beneath. For years, this coastal state has been a battleground where politics and organized crime collide with devastating consequences. The struggle for control isn't fought with words alone. It's a fight for power that often turns deadly. Over the past decade, Veracruz has earned a grim reputation as one of the most dangerous places in Mexico for politicians. Organized crime syndicates have embedded themselves deeply within the fabric of local government. These groups don't just traffic drugs or run illegal operations. They seek control over every aspect of power, from municipal budgets to law enforcement agencies, and public contracts that fuel the local economy. Imagine a game of chess where the pawns are everyday citizens and the kings are the criminal organizations pulling strings behind the scenes. Local politicians, especially those daring to challenge the status quo, find themselves caught between serving their communities and navigating threats from forces far beyond their control. Just weeks before Yesenia Lara Gutierrez was gunned down, another mayoral candidate, German Anuar Valencia, met a similar fate in Veracruz. His assassination sent a chilling message. No one running for office in this region is safe. These killings are not isolated incidents but part of a systematic campaign of intimidation and violence aimed at maintaining the grip of criminal groups over political power. For those on the ground, the reality is terrifying. Serving as a local official in Veracruz is no ordinary job. It's a daily gamble with one's life. Politicians must weigh their commitment to change against the risks posed by shadowy forces ready to silence dissent. Many candidates live under constant threat, some forced to abandon their campaigns or seek protection, while others pay the ultimate price. This dangerous backdrop sets the stage for understanding what happened in Texistepec, a violent clash where political ambition met ruthless opposition. It's a story that echoes far beyond the borders of one town or state, revealing the fragile state of democracy in places where fear has become a currency. The shockwaves from that brutal day in Texistepec rippled far beyond its narrow streets, reaching the highest levels of government and stirring official voices into action. Veracruz Governor Rocio Nal was among the first to condemn the assassination, labeling it an act of terrorism against democracy itself. With a heavy heart and steely resolve, she vowed to bring those responsible to justice and to ensure the safety of candidates as the June elections approached. President Claudia Sheinbaum echoed these sentiments, expressing deep sorrow and promising a full investigation. Law enforcement agencies, both at the state and federal levels, pledged swift action to restore order and protect future candidates from similar fates. Public statements poured out, condemning the violence and calling for unity against the forces threatening Mexico's democratic process. Yet, despite these official promises, the investigation has been slow to yield results. No arrests have been made, no suspects publicly identified. The Veracruz Attorney General's office confirmed the case remains open but tight-lipped on specifics. This silence has fed a growing sense of frustration and mistrust among the people of Texistepec and beyond. At Yesenia's funeral, grief filled every corner of the small chapel. Friends, family, and supporters gathered not just to mourn a life cut tragically short, but to voice the fear that now grips their community. "We are tired," one mourner said quietly, tears welling up. "Tired of living with this fear every day. How can we trust the government to protect us when those who promise safety are the ones failing us?" Others spoke of the psychological weight the tragedy imposed, a heavy, invisible burden hanging over Texistepec like a storm cloud. Parents worry about letting their children play outside. Friends hesitate to gather after dark. A once lively town now moves cautiously, shadowed by uncertainty and sorrow. The question lingers in every whispered conversation and silent glance. If those elected to serve the people are so vulnerable, what chance do ordinary citizens have? And if law enforcement struggles to solve a high-profile case like this, what does it say about the broader fight against violence and corruption? This collective anguish paints a stark portrait of a community caught between hope and despair, a town forced to live with the scars of violence even as it yearns for peace. The tragic assassination of Yesenia Lara Gutierrez is not an isolated incident but part of a disturbing pattern of political violence that has plagued Mexico in recent years. In 2024, the country experienced one of the most violent election periods in its modern history. According to Reuters, at least 37 candidates were murdered during the election cycle, marking the highest number ever recorded in a single electoral period. This surge in violence is deeply intertwined with the influence of organized crime. Criminal groups have increasingly targeted political figures to exert control over local governments, manipulate elections, and secure lucrative contracts. The Wilson Center highlights that organized crime involvement in political violence has escalated, with criminal groups seeking to influence candidate selection and control local governments for rent-seeking purposes. The root causes of this violence are multifaceted. Corruption within political institutions, impunity for perpetrators, and weak law enforcement have created an environment where criminal organizations can operate with relative freedom. The Vision of Humanity report notes that organized crime continues to drive extreme violence in Mexico, largely due to their efforts to supply the U.S. market with illicit drugs, particularly fentanyl. The impact on democracy is profound. When candidates are assassinated, it sends a chilling message to others who might consider running for office. The fear of violence can deter qualified individuals from participating in the political process, leading to a lack of representation and accountability. This erosion of democratic norms undermines public trust in political institutions and the electoral system. Experts warn that unless significant reforms are implemented to address corruption, strengthen the rule of law, and protect political candidates, the cycle of violence will continue. The International Crisis Group emphasizes the need for comprehensive strategies that include judicial reform, enhanced security measures, and community engagement to combat the pervasive influence of organized crime in politics. The assassination of Yesenia Lara Gutierrez serves as a stark reminder of the challenges facing Mexico's democratic institutions. It underscores the urgent need for systemic change to ensure that those who seek to serve their communities can do so without fear of violence and retribution. As the sun sets on the story of Yesenia Lara Gutierrez, what remains is a powerful symbol, a testament to courage standing tall against the tide of fear and violence. Her life, full of promise and dedication, was abruptly stolen, leaving a void not just in Texistepec but across Mexico. Her assassination echoes far beyond the streets where it happened. It reveals a political climate riddled with danger, where the simple act of running for office can become a fatal gamble. Yesenia's story is a mirror held up to a nation grappling with the very real cost of democracy when shadowed by threats and bloodshed. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. How can democracy truly flourish if those who step forward to serve live in constant peril? What does it mean for a society when fear becomes a tool used to silence voices, stifle change, and maintain control? The questions hang heavy, unanswered yet urgent. How can Mexico protect its leaders, its voters, its future? What must shift in institutions, communities, and governance to break this cycle of violence? And as the world watches, what role can we all play in standing with those who dare to stand for justice? We invite you to reflect deeply on these questions and share your thoughts. What feelings has this story stirred within you? What changes do you believe are necessary to safeguard democracy from the grip of fear? Your voice matters. Engage in the conversation below, help spread awareness, and honor the memory of those like Yesenia who gave everything for a chance at a better tomorrow. Thank you for staying with us through this difficult story. If you found this video meaningful, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Crime Network Files, where we bring you in-depth, carefully researched true crime stories from around the world. Your support helps us keep shedding light on important cases and the people behind them. Stay tuned for upcoming videos where we will follow new developments in this investigation and explore other stories of political violence that continue to shape communities and challenge justice. We ask you to remember that behind every headline is a real person, a family, a community affected deeply by these tragedies. Let us honor their memories by seeking truth and justice. Before we close, we'd like to observe a brief moment of silence for Yesenia Lara Gutierrez, her daughter, and all those whose lives have been forever changed by violence. Thank you for watching Crime Network Files. We'll see you in the next video.